Well, Travis, let's get into it, man. I know you've got a tight schedule, so let's jump right in, man. What's your overall view of the class, where we're ranking, and all that good stuff?
Generally, I really like this class. It's one of my favorite, probably in the past decade. I think it does a couple of things really well. First, it brings some really high quality at some good positions, and second, it really focuses well on the positions of need that we have, both short term and long term. Rivals has this class ranked 22nd in the country and third in the Big 12, behind only Oklahoma and Texas. 247 is a little more down on the class. It's at 32, which is still our best class in 10 years, according to their rankings.
Right.
But 247 also doesn't have one of our players rated yet, so it'll probably get bumped by a spot or two.
Okay.
When all is said and done.
And which one was that?
That's the JUCO receiver we got, Aaron, Jeremiah Aaron.
Okay, yeah. I had actually not even heard his name until later in the day today. I was listening to some other podcasts and stuff, and heard his name brought up. So,
yeah, he's a recent guy. Rumblings just started on him within the past 5 to 7 days, really, even behind the scenes. So,
cool. All right, well, let's jump in, man. I'm gonna go down the list here, and I want you, if you don't care, to we'll try to talk about each guy, highs, lows. I guess the list I got is alphabetical, and the first one on the list is Mr. Aaron, the one we just mentioned. What can you tell us about
Aaron is a JUCO wide receiver transfer, 3-star by Rivals, 3-star by ESPN. I would assume he'll also be a 3-star at the 247 network once rated. He's really sort of a versatile receiver. He can return kicks and punts, and also is a pretty good playmaking receiver. The staff really sold him on the fact that he could come in and be a playmaker pretty immediately. And if I'm recalling correctly, I don't know if it's JUCO wide or just his division, but I think it's the all of JUCO. He led every player in all-purpose yards this past season. So he's really sort of taken off this season and built himself up a little profile. And we competed with Florida State and Louisville for his services.
Awesome. Yeah. We beat out a lot of what you want to call blue blood schools for a lot of these guys, from what I'm hearing today. So.
Yeah, it's really kind of amazing, and it'll save me the trouble of saying that after every player, but it's really amazing. I mean, more than half the class we beat out, between half dozen and a dozen or more other Power 5 programs, some of whom were in really hot pursuit. For example, when we get to Jacolby Spells, that's a guy in Miami's backyard that Miami really wanted badly. Mm-hmm. And it's rare that we beat them out for that kind of a player. And we got him, and he's signed, and he's in the class.
Well, go ahead, and since you mentioned his name, go ahead and touch on him real quick.
Yeah, Spells is a cornerback. He's still developing. He played really well the last 2 years in high school, but still has a lot of room to grow. So I think he has a sky-high ceiling. He's a composite 4-star, so everybody rated him as a 4-star. It's sort of the universal agreement on what he should be rated. And he's a good one. He's a really good lockdown cornerback with some athleticism. So they're going to see him pick some balls off and get opportunistic, but you're also going to see him help out the staff and the defensive line with what they want to do and play man coverage and really lock it down out there. So he's going to be a fan favorite.
That's awesome. Yeah. And that's one area of need, one position we really have a need at. Depth has been thin there, as we all know.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Spells is one of 3 that we're bringing in this class at corner. And frankly, how highly I just spoke of him, he's not even my personal favorite cornerback of this class. That honor goes to Mumu bin Wahad from Grayson, Georgia. That guy, I live in Georgia, so I've talked to a lot of the football coaches around here. So I've heard with my own ears from two very good coaches that they believe he's the best lockdown corner in the state of Georgia this year. And that's saying something, because there are a lot of 5 and 4 stars that are coming out of this neck of the woods.
Right.
And then sort of trailing up the rear. But, any other year might be the standout corner in the class. But Tyron Woodby, who almost reclassified and came in this year, is another 3-star cornerback we add to this class. So we've got we're retooling, so to speak, on the cornerback front.
Right. All right. Well, in that position room, as I'm looking at the list here, was there anybody else in that position room? I noticed a couple guys in here that are listed as athletes. CJ Donaldson was one of those. I'm not sure. Do you know what they plan on doing with him?
Yeah, Donaldson is probably tight end, but a pretty versatile tight end. So he wouldn't fit in that cornerback room.
Christian Stokes is one. He was one. He was also very highly sought after, from what I understand.
Yeah, absolutely. And my early articles this year, actually, I pointed out that so far we had X number of sort of blue chip guys by at least one of the 3 major services. And I thought that 2 of them in particular would at least raise in the rankings as the season went on. And they both played very well this season, but they didn't see that bump. And Stokes is one of them. Stokes is a high 3-star safety out of Michigan that, Michigan State really pursued hard. They ended up landing Jaden Mangum that we thought we were going to get as well.
Right.
But Stokes is probably the better of those 2 safeties. He's kind of in the KJ Dillon, Carl Joseph mold of really sort of blue collar, hard hitting, and opportunistic when needed safeties.
Awesome.
He's going to continue to develop, and I think he's going to be a really good one for us.
Cool.
And then the other guy I thought was gonna see increase in ranking was Ben Wahad, who I talked about in the cornerback room.
Right. So you touched. I think that's all the corners, right?
Yeah, all the corners and one of the 2 safeties,
and then we'll hit on the other safety, which would be McLaren.
Yeah,
Hershey McLaren
goes by Hershey. Yeah, he's he got a 4-star JUCO rating actually, so he's a late ad blue chip for us, and he's going to be, whereas Stokes is going to probably compete for playing time, later in the year. I think Hershey's going to come in and compete for playing time pretty immediately. He's a little bit more versatile in that he's probably a cover safety a little bit more than Stokes, who's going to be a hard hitting in the box safety. Right. That doesn't mean McLaurin's afraid of the box. He'll get in there too. But his strength is going to be probably at that free spot, maybe cat. But he's a good one. He's going to fill some needs for depth and bodies right off the bat.
Right. Yeah, that's. I'm glad they hit that position hard, because that's one of the areas I was really concerned about coming in to this class, was our defensive backfield, because we're losing some really productive guys there, and we're thin there anyway.
Yeah, and I would expect we're not done. I would expect we're going to grab probably a total of 2, maybe through the transfer portal, maybe some late ad high school or JUCO guys, but right. I don't think they're done there, because over the last few years, we can talk all we want about, like, is the transfer portal a good thing or bad thing, and how much has it really hurt us? Where it's hurt the most is depth in the secondary, and we've lost a lot of bodies there.
Right.
We need to stop that bleeding, and this class really does that well.
I agree with you. Yeah, Coach Brown, I heard him say today that he was going to try to get at least 6 or 7 more guys, not at that position specifically, but total, out of the portal. He was hoping. So he's definitely going to hit the portal hard.
Yeah, no doubt.
Let's switch position rooms for a minute, and let's go to what's next on the list here. Let's stay on the defensive side of the ball and go to linebacker. Raleigh Collins III.
Yeah. So Raleigh Collins comes out of Philly. He's a 3-star guy. He's maybe a little overlooked compared to the other 2 linebackers we've got coming in, but of the 3, he's probably the most versatile linebacker we're bringing in. Probably not an immediate impact sort of player, but maybe Coach Brown takes advantage of the redshirt rule and lets him play in 2 or 3 games towards the end of the season to see what he's got and get him up to game speed. But Collins is going to be a good one over the years, but not somebody. At least I doubt somebody that we would rely on immediately.
Right. Yeah, and I heard Jordan Leslie today in his when he was talking with Tony Caridi and the guys that Collins is one of those guys. Like you said, he's versatile. He can play multiple positions.
Mm-hmm.
Outside linebacker, safety, wherever they need him to go, really, he can play there.
Yeah, and if you notice, it's been a trend over the past 2 or 3 years with the staff really talking about guys that they use the term multiples, guys that can do multiple things on the field. They really do focus on versatile athletes because, the injury bug hits and transfer portal and things like that happen, and you never know what you're working with year to year. So the more versatility a player has, the more long-term impact it can have on the team.
Right. And then sticking with the linebacker room, we've got Lee Kuba.
Lee is a guy who's taken sort of a circuitous route to Morgantown. He was a 4-star coming out of high school, but was a pretty raw, relatively new player. And he went to Syracuse, played a little bit for a year, then went to JUCO, and found his way back to us. And Rivals has him rated as a 4-star again. And I think he's got some of that rawness behind him. He's played some snaps. He's seen what the game looks like at this level. So I think he's going to be an immediate impact linebacker. And we need at least one more of those. We need at least one of those this season in this recruiting class, and we got him. I'd expect them to probably try to get one more through the transfer portal. But if we don't, Lee with Lyn-J Dixon are going to cover those first 2 linebacker spots really well. I
agree with that. Yeah, Lyn-J Dixon showed some really bright signs there coming on at the end of the season, I thought, until he got banged up.
Go ahead.
I just said until he got banged up.
Yeah, that was sort of the story of the latter half of the season. Just running thin.
Yeah. What's up, Fishing Football? Jonathan Lewis, thanks for stopping in. Got a shout out to my comments there.
Yeah.
And then the other line, there was one more linebacker, and that was Trey Lathan.
Yeah, Trey Lathan is another guy that South Florida guy. He's a 4-star linebacker. ESPN has him at 4-star, but he's probably a little bit behind on development schedule. And no knock against him. I mean, most high schoolers are. Most of them are not going to come in and be immediate impact guys. Not even the 4-stars. But Trey Lathan is going to be another one of those versatile linebackers, and he's going to have some real impact. Probably not this year. I even doubt at the end of the season he would really get much playing time or much run. But starting his sophomore year, it would be his redshirt freshman year. Really, I think this guy's going to be a deadly linebacker for us.
That's great to hear. Yeah, I'm really excited about these guys, man. Everyone we've talked about so far really excites me, and I think they all have bright futures.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's go to defensive line. Let's look at I hope I don't butcher this name, Zacchee Lawton.
Yeah, Lawton sort of got away from us last recruiting cycle. He was the second highest rated recruit out of West Virginia. He ended up going to Cincinnati for a year, and they redshirted him, so he still has 4 years of eligibility remaining. He signed today, and he's going to enroll for the spring semester, so he'll be He'll be on campus in just a couple of weeks. But yeah, Lawton is pretty good. He was recruited out of high school as an edge rusher or an end, and he's put on about 40 pounds, is what I hear, at Cincinnati. So
Right.
he could probably be one of those multiple guys for the staff, where he could play edge, or he could play one of the tackle positions. A little bit undersized, but that's sort of been our bread and butter, is
Right.
270 to 290 defensive tackles instead of the 305 heavy guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just think it's cool that the two major guys we've missed out on in state. Doug Nestor was under Dana, but Coach Brown's went out and he's gotten the three top players in the state the last 2 years. Well, actually four the last 2 years.
Yeah,
count Sean Martin in that, and then this year he got the top guy in which we'll get to in a minute, in the tight end.
Mm-hmm.
And then he brought the two guys that got away from us. He got them back in with Doug Nestor and now with Lawton. So he's bringing in the top guys in the state, which is what he promised to try to do, man. And I think that's a great sign.
He's made it a focus, and it's it bodes well for the future. Not only for West Virginia, but also the university, but also for the state, because the more attention that our head coach of a Power 5 conference school puts on development of in-state players, the more likely we are to have some Pop Warner programs spring up, and more and more development from an early age with our in-state kids. We could definitely use it.
Absolutely. And then the other D lineman, the one I'm probably most, other than Nicco, who's the obvious one, I'm probably more excited about this guy than any guy in this class. And that's the kid out of Georgia, out of Collins High School. I think his name's Redwood.
Yeah, Asani Redwood. So I actually got the opportunity to see him this past Saturday. I have a kid who plays for Milton High School down here in Georgia, and they faced off against Collins Hill in the Georgia 7A state championship. And, so I knew that he was a potential commit over the following days. So I looked really closely at him and took a lot of notes about what I thought. And, Redwood is still a little raw. He was a late bloomer. Some of that's just because Collins Hill is a very talent-rich program.
Right.
So there were still some plays where he seemed maybe a little unsure of himself. But he's got a really sort of natural high IQ at the position. And he's, when I was looking at it from the stands, I sort of thought, man, this guy looks bigger than other kids here. And mind you, to set the stage, there's at least a dozen Division I Power 5 prospects between the two teams on the field. So for somebody to stand out against that means that they're going to stand out on the next level too, because, he's going to be playing, 10 to 12 of these guys are going to be playing at the same level he is. But I thought, this guy's probably about 6'3", 250-ish. And when I look on his profile, turns out he's 6'3" and a half, somewhere between 250 and 260. So he's a big boy. Piled up a lot of stats this year, but sort of how he does it was most impressive to me, because he's just a very disciplined player. Most of the game against Milton anyway, Collins Hill ran sort of a different front, where the defensive line, normally they want to push back into the backfield, right?
Yeah.
They actually actively engaged the offensive linemen and pulled them where they wanted to. And then whenever a gap would develop through that sort of mechanism, the closest defensive lineman to the play would then sort of disengage and swim through and get in that way.
Yeah. It
really caused Milton a lot of headaches. And, Lawton was in, or not Lawton, but Redwood was in on a tackle for loss, half sack, and several critical tackles right at the line of scrimmage. So played really well. And again, he's a little raw still, but in a year or two, he's going to be big impact for us.
Yeah. What I've heard about the guys that he's mainly going to be, he's probably going to be more of a third down rush type guy. He's not going to be in on every down. Kind of like Bruce Irvin was for us is kind of what I think about when I hear that, because that's kind of how he was.
Yeah,
And,
I mean,
and
most
there's not a thing
immediately,
wrong with that
that's
because the cat was a 15th pick in the draft, playing basically one down a series. So
yeah.
there's definitely a market for that kind of guy, right?
Oh, absolutely. You always need rushers.
Absolutely. Real quick, I know you're on a tight schedule. Let's just hit some of the key guys on the offensive side of the ball. Obviously, we know about Nicco. I want to touch on Corbin Page, the tight end out of Spring Valley High School, real quick.
Yeah, so he's, as you mentioned, top-rated West Virginia recruit this year. Another, big focus. A guy out of Huntington. Our former staff said we could never get guys out of Huntington, and here we are landing yet another one. Early on, Virginia Tech made a pretty big push for Page, and Page shut everybody down and said, "Look, guys, I'm committed to West Virginia. I'm going there," and focused on the game of football. Sort of early on, particularly in his junior year, he looked like he might evolve into an offensive line sort of body. He was focusing more on the blocking, and he was just a little oversized. But he's lost some weight this year, and still has retained his ability to block and his know-how on that. But he's become a much better pass catcher. So I think he's going to be a pretty good, asset. We know that Neil Brown likes to use the tight end in blocking situations a lot, but then we'll run him out off the line, and I think Corbin can do both of those things. He'll be a welcome addition to the squad.
Right. And before you go, Travis, I want to get your opinion on. Obviously, we know about Nicco, but do you think, in your opinion, our fan base has been clamoring for this cat to come in and be starter, and I've been trying to tell them to kind of tone it down a little bit. That kids don't usually come in and start as true freshmen at the Power 5 level. What is your thoughts? Do you think he'll be able to come in and play right away, or what?
I mean, the fact that he's going to be in school in a couple of weeks certainly helps his case there. A lot of people don't realize, but head coaches really can't name recruits by name until they sign their letter of intent. So Coach Brown hasn't really talked a lot about him until today. And in his first comments, he said, I don't remember him ever saying this about a player. He said, "This guy's going to be a fan favorite from day one."
Yeah.
Which tells me that Brown's going to try to push him into being able to give us some meaningful snaps year one. But I don't – until you see something on the field, until you see him in spring, until you see him sort of pick up the playbook and run with it, it is probably wise to temper expectations a little bit. I actually wouldn't be surprised to see the staff try to bring in a one-year starter through the transfer portal to sort of bridge the gap. One more position group I want to touch on briefly, and then one more player.
Yeah, go ahead.
The offensive line, one thing I was looking at is we brought in 4 guys. I doubt that any of them play very much their true freshman year. We're not bringing in a Zach Frazier or a Wyatt Milam type. But we're bringing in 4 high-quality bodies and just average out their height and weight. And the average size of the offensive linemen we're bringing in is 6'5", 302 pounds. And that's high school weight, right? So some of them got room to grow up and some of them have a little room to grow down. But I remember a graphic at the beginning of the Oklahoma game about 6 or 7 years ago where they said that our offensive line's average height was 6'1" and average weight was 280. So that tells you we're starting to bring in a different type of body. And I think that's going to pay dividends many years down the road.
I agree with that. I totally agree with that.
And then real quick, the other offensive player I want to focus on, because some people have said, well, where do we really get with the skill positions outside of Nicco? And, we talked about Corbin Page, but Jarel Williams, the wide receiver out of Alabama, if you have not seen film on this kid yet, you need to look at it. I think you'll get some comfort about what we've got coming in at that position.
Right.
ESPN has him highest rated of any service. They've got him as a firm 4-star. But he had a heck of a senior year, and those stats didn't just happen accidentally. I mean, well over 1,000 yards, 15 or more touchdowns, and they didn't happen by accident. He's got some skill. Check him out if you haven't already.
Yeah, Williams, Jarel Williams, Saraland High School. That's the one you're referring to, correct?
Yep, that's the guy.
Yep.
But
Well, I appreciate you. Yeah, man. Look,
yeah, thanks for having me, man. I'm happy to help anytime. Hope you enjoy your evening. Hope anyone watching, any fans, enjoy their evening as well. It's a good day to celebrate.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great day to be a Mountaineer.
Yes,
Thanks,
sir.
Travis.
All right,
Good
take
night,
care.
man.